Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Zachary Ring. I work for Thea Enterprises. Looking at the registration list, I think I know pretty much everybody on the call. If you don't know me, I worked at Lutron for the past 5+ years, and I joined the Thea team in February. I've always focused on Lutron residential systems like Homeworks and Ketra, so I'm very excited to be a part of this presentation today. The lighting side of things, I think, is the future for our business. There's a huge opportunity there, and it just makes sense to have the synergy between the control side of things and the fixtures. Also, the capabilities that are being demanded nowadays almost require a control system. So when we talk about color tuning and human-centric lighting where the light follows what the sun is doing outside, having that connection to the outdoors, we really need some sort of control system behind this. So I think this webinar is great for those of you who are really starting to dive into the fixture game. Maybe we can help you find a way to just off complete fixture package on the job, be able to provide all the fixtures on the job, really give you a complete solution. I think that's something unique that Thea can help you with. If you're not selling fixtures yet, it's a great conversation to have. We'd love to have a follow-up conversation. We have a couple poll questions throughout this, a survey question at the end where we'll actually specifically ask you if you'd like to have a follow-up conversation with your account manager and James, who will introduce himself in a minute. And even if you're just dealing with the control side right now, I think this is a really great webinar because how many times have you been handed a spec packet or a fixture schedule or something like that, and then it's up to you to figure out what module it can go on, what the wiring needs to look like, how we're going to control this thing. So this is really a webinar that's valuable to everyone, and you're going to learn a lot, especially if you're newer to this. And if you've been doing it for a while, James has been doing this a long time, so hopefully he can point out a thing or two that you haven't seen before, just give you a couple good tips and tricks. So I'm actually going to just walk you through the agenda really quick here to give you an idea of what we're going to do today. Hopefully you like what you see. It's too late to bail on us now. I already see you're here. So we're going to start off with this applications brochure. Thea created this really cool brochure that takes you through some standard applications in a home, like a kitchen and a dining area or a master bedroom. And we look at the different zones of light in the space. We talk about what different solutions could fit into those different applications. And it's great. It starts off with this questionnaire where you sit down with the homeowner and ask them about what their requirements for lighting are going to be in the space, and then you can develop a really nice lighting strategy. So we're going to just kind of pick up where we left off with that. Then we're going to take that one step farther. We're going to take a look at some plans and come up with a labeling system so we can start labeling the different lights in the space by application type and by fixture type. Then we're going to take a look at the different manufacturers available on the Thea line card. We're going to select some factories, and then we're going to go to the different websites and start to dissect some spec sheets. And it's going to get a little technical there, right? A little bit tedious, but it's part of the job. And we really want to understand every little detail on the spec sheet. And this is where James taught me a few things. We're going to talk about some photometrics and how you're able to put together a lighting plan, maybe if there's not a lighting designer on the job. Basically just taking the ceiling height, taking the beam angle, taking the wattage, and making sure that you have correct lighting coverage for the space based on those questions that you ask the homeowner. And then last but not least, we're going to take those model numbers that we built from the spec sheet, all the other key information, and we're going to put it into this really nice, concise, cohesive fixture schedule that can be shared with everybody throughout the project. So that's what we're doing today. And I'm going to pass it over to Jim. This is his world. I'm going to be here in the background. I'm going to jump in and out with some polls. And if you have any questions, just use the questions function. I'll monitor that. I might respond back to you. We might just table your questions for the end, and then we'll go through them one by one. So thanks again for
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it. So let's jump in here a little bit. My name's James Vermeulen. I'm with Thea Enterprises in the lighting division. You can see my email address right down here. Feel free to contact me on any of this stuff. I like to put this picture up. Sales is a little personal. I wanted to just show you a little piece of myself. This is my wife, Allison, my son, Jesse, and Peter, and Lucas. We all live together up in Beacon, New York. It's about an hour and change out of Manhattan. It's part of the Hudson Valley, and it's just so beautiful. We just love it up here. A little bit about myself. I was a theatrical lighting designer for over a decade. I had my own firm in Manhattan. I've designed for Broadway. I've designed for off-Broadway. I've been to just about every regional theater inside of the country. I've done fashion shows for Gucci and Yves Saint Laurent in Milan and in Paris. And when I met my wife, I closed that down. I pivoted over to architectural sales so I can be closer to home and be with my wife and raise the family together. Anyone with a theater background will know, it is your life. It becomes your wife and your children, and it's very, very hard for most, and it was for me. So I'm really glad that I was able to pivot into architectural sales and keep one foot in design. So let's get it going. We got a lot to cover here. I'm going to keep it pretty simple, pretty surface. Some of you will be a lot more sophisticated than some of the information that I'll be sharing, and some won't. I'm hoping I'll just be a nice level portion right in between so we could find a common ground and hopefully take some of the mystery out of some of this stuff. Okay. And if you need to, just reach out to your account manager. I'm happy to join them on any calls or discuss about any projects, layouts, anything that you might need. Okay. So let's get going here. So step one, this is reviewing the application. Our team member, Patricia, had created an application brochure for us that took us through the layout. So I'm going to start here with a layout that was already determined with inside of the brochure. I believe it's on an attachment for you to take. But one of the things that we want to do here is that we need to come up with a lighting strategy, and that lighting strategy is what's going to hold us down to everything that we do moving forward. And we find that out with a series of questions. I'll give you a simple one. If you were to ask my wife and I, what do we prefer for brightness for eating dinner? I would say I prefer the lights on at full. I have a very easy relationship with condiments, so I want to make sure that I can see everything that's on my plate. My wife is, full of magical hopes. She wants everything to be down to candlelight. She wants everything to be romantic, so that would be her preference. So now you have a homeowner that really wants both bright and dark, and we really need to spend a little time with them to figure out exactly where they want to be. So we've created a series of questions over here. We're not going to go through them all, but we polled our homeowner, and we found out that, they are in their late 60s. It is their retirement home. They do have an affinity to the outside. They love the outside coming in. They do entertain a lot. They like an open plan, so they want, rooms to flow in and out between each other. They want architectural details to show them the differences between rooms, right? They don't want it to feel like one big loft, and they want to use architecture and lighting to create that. They want a very deep, soft dimming. They are sensitive to light. They are glare sensitive. They don't want bright pools of light throughout the house. They want the light and darks and, the ratios between to be pretty even. They don't want hard edges. They collect art. They know where the art's going to go, but they rotate their art. They are collectors of art. They like galleries, meaning that it's more of an open feel where you can put the art anywhere along the gallery walls and really show off that art and then change it. So we know that we're not going to really be pinpointing any art. We're going to be kind of washing walls where art will be. So knowing all of that about my homeowner, we've come up with a lighting strategy that I'll show you over here. I'm going to be zooming in and out. I hope it's okay. I'll try and take it easy, but I think with the small text, it's probably good that we do that a little bit. So our lighting strategy is going to be layers of light providing general illumination as well as task and accent lighting to enhance architectural elements and finishes. Low glare and soft edge lighting fixtures throughout the project to conform to the client's sensitivity to brightness. Tunable or warm dimming solutions programmed to change through the day, complementing daylight and allow the users to create different scenes, settings, and mood for cooking, dinner, and entertainment. Real simple strategy, says a whole lot for me in my world on how I'm going to approach this job. and the choices that I'm going to make and the factories that I'm going to go to. So quickly here, you can see our layout. We're going to be diving into each of these as we go along. I won't take much time here at all, but when you come back on this presentation, you can see there's little details on why we did what we did on each of these areas. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to break this up. The first thing that I like to do, again, homeowners have preferences on how they like to have their home lit. Each firm out there has your own preferences on how you like to create your paperwork or do your design. My preference is to break this down by mountain, right? So when I'm going to start creating a labeling system, I want to know the different types of mountain options that I have, and I like to break them up. I'll break them up by mountain, and then I'll break them up by application, and then I'll assign fixture types to each of those. So in this particular application, we have a recess, which is above the ceiling plane. We have a surface, which is underneath the cabinetry and in some architectural details. We have both coves, down lighting coves, and we have up lighting coves. I like to keep those separate. And we also have a pendant, which is just basically a fixture attached to a recessed J box. Okay. Having done that, now we can take this simple layout, right, and really kind of break it down into different fixture types. Okay. So I think Zach's going to hit you with a poll right here. We want to see what you all think about fixture types, and then I'll come back and I'll explain some of my preferences.
Oh, like clockwork.
And Zach turned into a dog.
I got a garbage truck outside, which triggered the dog. So we 2 for 1.
We were just kidding about this.
Yeah, and here we are. So if you guys were looking at a reflected ceiling plan or just any set of plans, what would you use to designate a light or a fixture on a set of plans? Or if you're not responsible for this, what have you seen if you've been given a set of plans? Do you see the lights labeled as F? Do you see them labeled as LT, D? If you're labeling the plans, maybe you're at IDFC, right? If you know what that one stands for. I think you can probably take guesses at what the other ones stand for here. And I see the poll results coming in. We like to do this just to keep you engaged, just to get you thinking in the right direction. I can secretly make sure that you guys are all paying attention. But if we take a look at this, we can take a look at these results here, and it's a pretty even spread. And I like this. It looks like all of you do care, at least to some extent, about what you're going to label the fixtures as. But maybe you have F for fixture, LT for light, D probably for downlight, and you see a pretty even spread. And the point to this is up to you. This is up to your firm. This is up to your team, how you want to lay this out and how you want to label everything.
That's exactly right, Zach. I appreciate that. So we're going to, for the purposes of this presentation, keep it simple, and I'm going to go with the LT. I have less fixtures on this presentation than 10, so I'm going to keep them LT1 through LT8. If I had more than 10, I'd probably start at LT01, LT02, so when I got to LT11. Now, you could get as granular as you want with this. You can get real deep and really start to break them down. For example, you can do an RD1 for recessed downlight 1. You can do an RD1A for a recessed downlight 1 adjustable, recessed downlight 1 wall wash. It's really up to you that what really feels comfortable for your firm. What I would suggest, though, is per firm, pick one and stick to it. That way, there's no confusion when you're handing off a job. Things become familiar. Your client gets to know it, or the people that you're working with understand what's coming from your end or what things may mean. So really just pick out the one that you want. I prefer LT, and that's what we're going to be talking about on this one. Okay, so let's jump right in here and start with our recessed, right? So in our recessed, I've located 3 recessed types here. I'm going to call them the LT1, the LT2, and the LT3. They're broken down with what I'm going to call my workhorse, which is the LT1, which is going to be above my kitchen island. And what that's going to do is each of these LTs, I'm going to label every single one of them in LT1 because I want to make sure that when I hand this off to somebody to do counts, that they've included every single one. If I just put one LT1, you're going to only end up with one fixture. So what I've done here is I want these to be smooth, round, wide pools of light that overlap. each other. I call it my workhorse because it's the one when they come in and they hit the switch, that's going to give them their light that they want to be able to see, and then everything else becomes design around that. So we're going to have a nice, smooth, round pools here, and I'm separating them from the other types here because it has probably a different beam spread and maybe a different lumen output. We'll find that out. Also, I have an LT2 here. And what I'm doing with the LT2 is I'm putting them right over my my dining room table. I'm using them as a bit of a trick. I think you'll see when we start talking about this pendant light right in the middle, and we're talking about low glare, we need to be very careful about how bright that fixture gets. So LT2 is kind of a cheat. Both LT1 and LT2 are of this type on the top right here, right? So this is a cross section of a housing in above your ceiling plane, and it's showing that you have a fixed module here, right? And the light's coming out at a particular beam angle, and that beam angle is determined by us in specifications. It could be a certain brightness, it could be a certain width, a certain softness, you could put a certain lens in it. It's really up to you and what the lighting strategy calls for. I want mine to be soft, and I want mine to be wide on the LT1, which is over the island. And I'm going to want mine to be a little tighter, maybe a little bit sharper when we're talking about the LT2 over the dining room table. But I want you to see this one down here. Same housing, it's going to be the same factory, and it has this angled lens right here. And what it's doing is the diodes are angled, it's going through a lens, and it's curving up right at the top of the wall. This is a wall washer, right? It's going to light the wall evenly from top to bottom to left to right. And if you remember what our preferences were, we want to do an art wall that is not specifically pinpointed, but is nice wide wash where they can put it anywhere they want. This one's going to be very useful to us. If we were to pinpoint it, we might find ourselves with an adjustable, which means I can adjust this and I can adjust the beam and I can shoot it right on the artwork that I'm looking to do. Not what this client is looking for, but also very useful. Over here, you can see it's just a little picture of what it looks like on recess. I'm sure we all know that, but I just got a little color picture for you to see it. So we're going to label the last one, which was the wall washer, right? The LT3s, right? I've got 3 of them here. I've labeled all 3 of them, right? So we finished with our recessed, right? We had recessed 1, recessed 2, recessed 3. We separate them by mountain, and we separated them by fixture application, right? Gave them 3 different types. Okay, let's move on to our coves. All right, so coves. I can't talk enough about coves and how much I love them. They are completely transformative. I come from a theatrical background. I'm a bit of a theatrical person. I am very emotional. I have an emotional connection to light and my clients. When I use coves, it transforms. It becomes magical. And when they are done right, it's just stunning and everyone's happy. When they're done wrong, it's the pits. So I just want to show a couple little tricks here when you're talking about coves on what to do to make sure that you make a couple right choices. But before that, we're going to separate them into 2 applications here, right? We have an LT4. If we follow this along, there's a long line here that runs all along these 2 lines, right? It makes the jog and comes back in front of the cabinetry and then turns to either the windows or the curtains or some other type of material, right? And then we also have an LT5, which is represented here, which is going to be lighting up here at this area, right? So let's just zoom in here for a little bit of what these 2 are doing, right? So the LT4, like I mentioned, which is coming down, we're going to use this as a grazer. Grazer means exactly that. We're going to shoot it down the wall and graze it as tight as we can. We're going to use nice, tight optics. A couple things to just discuss right here is this reveal. We want that reveal to line up right with the middle of that, right? We want to use the sight line. Again, it's this magical stuff. We don't want to really see where it's coming from. We just want to experience the light and the transformative abilities, right? If we move down a little bit, you can see what we're looking at here, right? There's a nice graze down the front of it. You can imagine it going around the whole room, right? If we could, you know, color tune this, or even if we could put this into any kind of RGB, remember our client really wants transformative and really wants to entertain. So that's in our conversation. And let's go down to the optic here, right? It's a 10 by 60, which means it's 60 degrees wide, right? Left to right, 30 degrees here, 30 degrees there, right? And also deep, 5 degrees forward, 5 degrees backwards, which is going to give us a 10 degree here. You can see this nice graze beam, which means I'm going to be evenly illuminated left to right, and I'm going to have a nice graze coming down the front here. Okay, So that's what we're going to choose here for the 60-degree graze on the LT4. So let's just grab over on this other application that we have here for a cove. This is the cove uplight. You can see down here over in this application shot, it's evenly illuminating the ceiling as it comes out. It really increases the height of a location. It's like a small empty room that all of a sudden you put furniture in it. It looks bigger. It's the same concept. It's an 8-foot high ceiling. If I could get a little detail bump up and I could throw that up, I can really transform this space. And it'd be pretty magical if I had very little low light levels for everything else and I was working with these two coves during an entertainment scenario. Couple of tricks about this one. 4 inches wide is pretty standard right now because the LEDs are so small. But what you want to keep in mind is this reveal. You want, again, this reveal to come right to the top of that so I can kick light out, but I can also block that sight line as it comes in. Very important. You do not want to see these fixtures. When you do, it's done. It's a callback. Architect's going to ask you if you're specifying this, what's the depth that I want? Well, it's a 4-inch depth, and what's the height? The height is the height of the fixture that you're putting in there, including accessories, including blocking, right? So if your fixture is 4 inches, 2 inches, 1 inch high with the accessory on it and the blocking from the contractor, well, then that's the height that you want to talk to the contractor about. Okay, so there we go. We created them, LT4, LT5. Now, a little bit different from what we did with the LT1s, the LT2s and 3s. We've only labeled them once for the run, right? We're going to capture this once, and we're going to capture the length of this run. And that's how we're going to start pricing this thing out and speccing it, right? The LT4, you can see it's a long one. I got to consider corners. What am I going to do in my corners? I got to consider length. And I want to make sure that I separate that from each other. So again, the LT4 and LT5. Okay, let's move on to our next. Now we're looking at surfaces now, right? I'm going to call these the LT6 and LT7. It's the same kind of thing. We're going to label them in the run, right? But they're different. They're a lot smaller. They're not going up into any kind of really architectural detail of any major concern. They're going under cabinets. They're going down by your knees. If we look over here on the right-hand side, what will be the LT6, which will be underneath the kind of island on the guest side, which will graze down any kind of detail that might be here. And then the LT7, which is going to be a countertop light. I have somebody who is very sensitive to glare. I'm not going to put it in the back side and bounce at them. I'm going to put it right in the little reveal in the front side, and I'm going to shoot it back to the backsplash and to the knives and the toasters and all that other stuff. And when they sit here and they cook and they chop, they're not going to have any problems. Keep in mind when you're having these conversations, talk about materials. What's the tile? What's the top tile? What's this material down there? That usually helps you out with color temperature and lensing. Okay, so moving on to the last type here, we're going to do the pendant, right? Which is, exactly that. It is a, you've seen them in fans, you've seen them in any kind of your surface fixtures that are in your house. They connect right to a J-box. Let me come in a little bit for you here. You can see we have a recessed J-box. We have a little kind of like a butterfly piece here that's going to screw right into these little pieces. It's going to be covered with a canopy. It's going to come down with a cord or a stem. It's going to be direct decorative chandelier or a simple pendant. But these are pretty simple in terms of install. Okay, the homeowner and I were looking at this one over here. We'll talk more about that, but I want to remind you that I'm putting this LT here. I have a homeowner who is very sensitive to glare. That's why I added those LT2s. You can imagine this one, if we put it super bright, it's going to be really hard in your face, and I'm not going to be able to get those levels I want to on the table without blasting that thing. I'm going to make an unhappy homeowner. So I've come up with this little trick here. You put these little LT2s on either side. You form it all together in its outputs and its color temperatures and its abilities, and it makes it look like it's actually coming from that fixture, and I'm able to keep that fixture at a low brightness. Well, we did it. So we labeled this small project that we have. We're going to be moving on to the manufacturers, choosing the manufacturers, and the building of the model numbers. But I know Zach's got another poll for you here. And let's see if his dog makes another appearance. All yours, Zach.
They're sleeping. I'm not going to talk too loud.
That was fast.
Yeah. So are you currently able to provide a complete fixture package. So looking at all those categories that Jim talked about, the recess, the coves, the surface, and the pendants. So I see the answers coming in already. This is great. So yes, maybe you're working with a couple different fixture manufacturers. You have everything. You can do the decorative, you can do the low profile under cabinet, the different surface light applications. Maybe you're at a yes, but my options are limited. I see a couple Ketra dealers on the line. Maybe you're just selling Ketra right now. So yeah, you can try to squeeze G2s into certain applications, but it's like fitting a square into a circle. It's a little too bulky. You're stuck in some situations where maybe you don't have decorative options. So yes, but my options are limited, or no, maybe you're not selling fixtures at all. Maybe you're not selling Ketra. Maybe you're just doing a fixture here, a fixture there. Maybe you're just doing Fineri Prime or something like that. So you'd like to get more involved. And taking a look at the answers here, this is about what I expected to see with the people on the call. There are a bunch of people who are able to provide a complete fixture package. That's great. Maybe we can still give you some pointers on how to be more successful with this, run into less hiccups. Definitely want to talk to you guys who are at yes, but my options are limited. Let's find a way to really bolster out your fixture offering and make sure that you can provide all the fixtures on the job. And down here, it seems like there's a lot of opportunity to help you grow. So no, but I'd like to. Let's talk afterwards. Let's sit down and let's help you figure out how you can provide a complete fixture package.
Excellent. Thanks,
All
Zach.
right, Jim.
So let's dive into this. It's going to get a little tedious. I'm not going to go through every single one, but I want to show you some key stuff that, on the less sophisticated, the less complicated designs that we can do ourselves right from the cut sheets. We don't have to go to applications. We don't have to go to light-end designers. We can really take that step. We can get rid of some of the mystery here. And one of the things that Thea Enterprises has done is created a line card for you to do your whole job. These are several of our lines. These are our key lines, and we're growing with these lines. So we're going to be adding new lines to these as we move along. I have gone right to this with my layout, and I've determined which lines I'm going to use based on what the homeowner said. So remember, they said they wanted, we had a human-centric conversation. They wanted outdoors, indoors. They wanted color tuning. They wanted to entertain. They were interested in RGB. They wanted linear lines. They wanted decorative. So when I went to the Thea line card and I reviewed them all, I then limited it down to here. So I could do this whole job with these four, right? I'm going to show you how. So we're going to start jumping in right here, and let's get right to the first one, the LT1, right? So again, we start with recessed. We're going to get into the LT1. What do we know about it? We know that we want to make this our workhorse. We know that we want nice, round, soft pools. We know that we want it to be a fixed downlight. In conversations with my homeowner, they want to go with a color tune-in, but they also want to go with an RGBW. They want to get very dynamic here, but they also want to keep it sophisticated, and they want to keep it controllable. They want to really get that story of that the human-centric light and having the outdoor come indoor and feel like it's open, but yet also be able to go down to a beautiful candlelight and entertainment whenever they really wanted to. That leads us right to Ketra. Ketra is in my opinion, the end-all be-all with this kind of fixture. So we're really going to concentrate on the Ketra solution when it comes to this application. Now, if we were just dealing with a warm dim or not a full tune-in, we'd be going with someone like DMF. DMF is, like for me, it's a star-studded factory that can really deliver everything that you need to do on that warm dim and that standard color temperature downlighting. And we could talk more about that on another presentation. I'll be happy to talk to you about that factory on separate calls. But for purposes of this conversation, we're going to be talking about Ketra. Okay, so let's move on here to the next. So I went to the Ketra website, Ketra.com. I pulled the cut sheet. It's a D3 fixed square downlight. And what I do is when I grab these cut sheets, I start creating a spec book. I start creating a way in which I can have this information. I can share this information. So I pull the cut sheets and I mark them up. It does a lot for me. In my conversations with the homeowner, I've come up with all these choices. First thing I do is I hit the LT number up here, or whatever labeling system you want, at the top of every single cut sheet, LT1. Project name, that's going to change per, of course. In my conversations with the homeowner, we had decided to go with a trimmed deep square option. One, they like squares. Two, they have a sensitivity to glare, so I want the deeper option. And three, they didn't want to have to deal with the trades, or they were worried about the trades, they were worried about the drywaller, and they wanted to make sure that if the contractor just cut it out, they can drop it in, and this little trim right here would cover any of the cutouts and make it really clean, swift application. Okay, so let's get to the secondary part of this. Now, here's where we get to the meat of the specifications. Ketcher's got really great cut sheets. They have these pull downs. Let me zoom in for you a little bit here. They got these pull downs, right? Click on that, pull it down, choose it. It populates right here. Cut and paste, move it to your fixture schedule. Really simple, really great way of doing it. If it's not a pull down, it means you don't have a choice. That's what you're getting when you purchase this. So let's get right into it. Product line, here's a simple one. We're doing a resident, right? It's a residential project. We're looking to use Homeworks QSX on this project. So we're gonna pick the HW option. The fixture trim, we just discussed that. We talked to the homeowner about what exactly that they want. We need a housing that goes along with it. So we're gonna be picking the D3 FXSQ. Just a quick moment on that. When you're ordering light fixtures, there's a housing, there's a module, and there's a trim. Many factories will have just a housing or the trim, and there'll be two sets of codes that you need to include in your ordering. Otherwise, you're just going to get a housing or you're just going to get a trim. Other factories like DMF will have three options. They'll have a housing, they'll have a module, and they'll have a trim, right? In this particular one, Ketra, you have two options, right? You have a housing and a trim. So the first one that we're working through is the housing, right? So we just picked the housing that accepts the square trim that we want, and we're going to be specified. Okay, so moving on to the next, wattage. Some of these fixture cuts are tough, like why? What am I doing here? Am I picking 9, 13, or 18 watts? This is where you're going to find this information. We don't need to run to applications. We don't need to run to a lighting designer on the smaller ones, or if we're posed with this, why the 13 watts? Well, we want to go to the secondary and the tertiary pages of these cut sheets where the information lies. So let's take a look here. This is on page 3, I think, of this cut sheet. And I want to bring your attention to this little area up here. So let's zoom in there. This is basically telling us what we need to know about that wattage, right? I know I have somebody who is sensitive to light. They don't want very high-end lighting, right? It may lead me to pick the middle one, low, medium, high, right? And I have a homeowner that doesn't want it that high. So, but I want to make sure. Now I have a little bit of tribal knowledge, so I know what 760 lumens look like. I think it falls right in line with what my homeowner wants. Now I'm able to have the lumen conversation because I went to this table and I found out what 13 watts here is. I've also taken it over to the left and I can see low glare. Catcher's great on this one because they'll say low glare. If I need low glare, sensitivity to low glare, I'm going right to low glare. So I know all of these are out, right? I'm coming to a 60-degree beam. I'll let you know how I got that to in a minute. But if I find my 60-degree beam at low glare at 13 watts, I'm 760 lumens. That lumen number is going to be important moving down the line because I want to start unifying my top end of this stuff. I don't want to just go for the brightest thing and say I have a dimming system. When that fixture goes on at full, you're going to get a reaction from the homeowner. I want that fixture to go on to full and that homeowner is going to be like, this is the perfect amount of light. Now I want to transform, right? Not, I got to dim everything down, right? So it's very important when we start talking about other fixtures here. Okay, so let's go back and finish this fixture up. Again, I'm hoping the zoom in doesn't pop you back and forth too much, but I'm hoping that it helps. So here we go. Systems, CCX, Clear Connect X. That's going to be one that's compatible with our Homeworks QSX system. Okay, so that's why we chose that. Now back here to beam angle, we mentioned it before. I chose a 60-degree low glare, a very wide flood. Why did I do that? It's real simple. It came down to what I talked to the homeowner about, right? They want, let's talk about those F1s. They wanted that to be their workhorse in their kitchen. They wanted that to be wide and smooth and even, right? They didn't want pools of harsh light. So I'm going to look for something that's going to give me a nice sized beam. Now, those fixtures are on about 5 to 6 foot centers, right? So I want a beam that's bigger than that. This charts are found, maybe page 4 of the cut sheet. And what it does is it shows you that your light is right here. I'm on an 8-foot ceiling, so I'm going to pull down to that 8-foot section here. Now I know I'm right at 8 feet. I'm going to pull it over to the right-hand side. I'm going to see a 9.24 foot beam. That's exactly what I want. I want it to overlap. I want each of the beams to overlap. For any of those theatrical guys out there, this is how we used to do it back in the early 2000s and 90s. We would use these charts all the time in ETC or Altman. So this is very familiar to us. But it's a really easy way of doing it. I didn't have to go to applications. I didn't have to go to light and design. I only went to a couple pages in on my cut sheet that helped me make the determination of what my fixture needed to be, right? Now over here on the left-hand side, it's going to show you foot candles, right? A foot candle is the amount coming out of a candle, one candle at 1 foot away, right? So envision that in your mind. A candle being lit, one candle in the dark room. How much light am I getting at from 1 foot? Now envision 19 of them, right? 19 foot candles at 8 feet, 9.24. It's right in there where I want it, okay? Now let's jump over here and let's just say, we put in a 25 degree. We didn't spend much time looking at these charts. We just threw in 25 degrees. It sounded good to me, right? Well, let's take a look. We put our light in the spot. We come down 8 feet. We shoot over to the right, 3.55 feet for your beam diameter. That's exactly what the homeowner didn't want. They did not want pools of light. If my light is on 6-foot centers and my beams are at 3 feet, I have these pools of light. I kind of got like this dance show going on, and they don't want it. Very, very strong differences, very strong max to mins between your light and your dark, and it's exactly what they don't want. Now shoot over here to the left, 66-foot candles. It's bright. That's 66 candles at 1 foot away. Okay, so real simple way of trying to figure out what these mean and how to do it. Let's head back here. Okay, so we made that determination. The rest is easy, 120 volt. Don't choose it unless you talk to your electrician. Okay, make sure it's 120 volts. You may have a garage that is 277. You might have something else. You can leave this blank. You can exit out. Just don't order this fixture until you know if it's 120 volt or not. New construction is your only choice. IC airtight, NC IC. That means I can put insulation up against it. I don't have any issues with UL. My next is an optic accessory. That is happening at the module, right? So there's the trim, and through the aperture of the trim, there's a cavity, and in that cavity is a module. This is telling me that I'm going to put a lens, a softening device, or a hex louver right there. Now what that's going to do is going to give the homeowner an appearance that it is basically a circle in a square, right? They're going to see the blackness of the cavity, right? I'm not a fan of this. I picked none here. I get another opportunity to pick a lens on the trim, and I'm going to do just that. I can't do both. It's one or the other, right? So I'm going to pick no here, and then I'm going to move on. Single pack, that's how it's shipping, okay? Let's jump over to the trim, right? We have a universal. We can't pick that. It's just what it is. We do our pull downs, and we find that square deep bevel trim we talked about, right? So now we've actually specified the trim as opposed to the housing that accepts the trim. So here's the trim. We've picked it. Now we're going to move down to trim color. We're picking white here. They like white. You have a choice of white or black. If there's a color you want, ask. Most of these factories will let you know if they could do it or not. They'll probably be talking RAL colors. It's a standardized color chart that you'll find through architecture and interior designers. So if you're talking RAL colors, the factory is going to know what that means and give you the exact color number that you've asked for. And here's where I put my lens. I put a Solite Night Softening lens right at the trim. What that does is it covers the cavity of the fixture and makes a nice, smooth, sophisticated look right at the ceiling line, and that's what I'm looking for. Okay, we're moving on. Fantastic, we fixed all that. So the LT1 is completed. I'm jumping off the LT2 because it's very, very similar. We'll be having the same conversations except for beam spread. I did a 60 degree on the LT1. I'd probably be looking to do on the LT2 like a 40 degree, right? I want it tighter, but I don't want it too tight so it doesn't look like it's coming from that pendant, right? So keep that in mind. Moving to the LT3, which are our wall washers. You'll see it has the little arrow that's shooting over to the wall. I've picked 3 of them. We'll talk about spacing and spread in just a moment. I want this style. I want a wall wash that comes out of it and washes the wall. I'm not doing an adjustable to pinpoint it because of my lighted strategy. And I'm not doing a fixed down to use it ambient light to do it. I'm washing the wall left to right, top to bottom. I also have the requirement of CCT tuning. I also have the requirement of RGB. There's vibrancy that comes along with Ketra, and we can really talk about that, how we can make colors pop in that art. Giving the homeowner that opportunity is just staggering. So again, we go to Ketra, go to Ketra.com, and let's find our cut sheet. We find the D3 wall wash square. First thing I do is I label it, I put my project name, now it's part of my spec book. I've grabbed flange like I did before, same reasons. It's nice, clean, and easy install. I don't have to worry about another trade coming in and tape float on it. I want you to notice the angle glass here on how it comes out and it shoots up into that wall, right, as opposed to straight. And I think you can see on this one a bit of a Solite lens right here. So you're able to see that it is a wall washer as you start to walk through, okay? Let's move on to, sorry, just one second. And let's move on to specifying this. And we're gonna zoom right in here. We are going to pick, of course, the homeworks portion here, right? It's a residence, so it's residential, homeworks, QSX is what we're looking for. Again, we're gonna populate, and then we're gonna throw it on the order codes. We're gonna cut and paste and move it right along, right? So here we go. Residential, HW. We pick that wall wash square, that one with the trim on it. So here we pick the housing that accepts it, right? And then we come down to wattage and we look at it and we go, 18 watts. Well, Jim, I thought you didn't want this thing to be at the high end because of the sensitivity of the homeowner, right? Why aren't you picking 13? A couple simple answers to that. One is that this fixture is less efficient, right? So let's just go in and see what that means. I have a couple things for you to look at here. If we come up to this section here, to that chart on the second to third page here that is showing you, you can see if I were to pick 13 watts, I would only be getting 573 lumens on it. Now, I was looking to unify my top end here. I'm looking to unify my top end because when everything's at full, right, and I'm in that 700, 800 lumen range, it's all going to come down real nice and smooth. If I would have picked 9 watts here and it was 414 lumens, and I had my downlight at 760 lumens, and that was at full, and the wall was at full, and everything just came down on one handle to pull it down, you'd see that 9 watt, 414 lumens disappear a lot sooner than you would the 705. By unifying it, I'm creating one block of light that's going to dim together, and then we're going to program from there. I want to be able to make this as smooth as possible, okay? So, you know, we could come down here and we just look at the efficiencies. It takes more electricity, more power to pump the lumens out of this fixture because of the angle and because of the lens. So a real simple rule of thumb that I like to do is if you're specifying a 13 watt fixture on the downlight and you're using the same factory and you go to the wall wash and they have an option to have 1 wattage up, the 18 watt, that's what I'm choosing, okay? So I would have gone to this right away and I would have seen they had an 18 watt option because I chose 13 on my downlight. I'm choosing 18 watt and I'm moving on. No calculations done. No applications team hired right on that. Okay, so let's move it on. CCX, Clear Connect X. It works with my Homeworks QSX system. And then I'm coming over here to beam angle, which is my wall wash. It's the only option that you have here. But with these, you do have options of setback and offsets and heights. So I want to take a minute and just show you that and how we could go. I get a lot of questions. How far off the wall should I do this? How, you know, what's my spacing on it? It really comes back to that lighting strategy, but there are some easy tips that we could talk about doing this. One is I always do a 1-to-1-to-1, right? I do whatever my setback is going to be my spacing, and that's going to be the height that I'm looking at as my key location. And I'll show you what that all means. Zoom in a little bit here. So on my wall washer, you can see how it blasts this way, right? It's not coming straight down like my other ones that we were looking at. It's coming up at the wall, right? So I'm going to come over to this section here now. And here it is. This is great, right? So look over here on this left-hand side here, these multiple unit diagrams. I have a setback, my distance from the wall. Then I have a spacing, right? On center spacing from each other. And then I have a height, my height from the top of the wall, right? I have a CL here that's going to match with CL here. I have an M here that's going to match with M. And I have a CL here that's going to match with CL. So this is representative of a wall. I'm looking straight at it. If I ran at it, I'd bump right into it, okay? So from the ceiling, that's where we're going. So the height is 1 foot from the ceiling, right? 10 feet from the ceiling, that's a 10-foot height wall. I know I'm an 8-foot height wall, right? Now, my preference is 3 foot off the wall, 3 foot on center, looking for that 3 feet down from the ceiling on wall washing, especially for this client. I think it'll give them a very nice soft feel when they're working with this. So let's take a look at what that looks like. 3 feet from the wall, 3 foot on center, 3 foot height. I shoot over here and I have 22 foot candles here, 23 foot candles here, 23 foot candles here. Now, if this is my wall, my sweet spot is right in here for my art. It's not up here at 11, it's not down here at 8. It's right in here, and I have a very even illumination going on right here, right? It's done. I figured that out. We're all set. We're ready to move that on. I want to show you one quick thing that'll happen here. So let's do 1 to 1 to 1. 2 foot wall, 2 foot center, 2 foot height, right? I'm getting 43 foot candles very close to my ceiling. That's not what we want. Right here in my sweet spot, it's starting to get bright and it's starting to slide a little bit. Still exceptional catcher optics, but for this application, 3 foot by 3 foot. All right, so there we have it. Moving on, 120 volts. Check with the specifier. With the electrician. New construction, it can be hit on IC housing, right? It can be packed in, and you could single pack this. We move over to the trim. It's a universal. It's the wall wash square, right? Compatible. We chose that on purpose. It's white, and it's the W. That fixture's done. Let's move on to the coves. Again, we're not going to do both coves. We don't have a ton of time here. We're going to stick with one cove application. That particular application that we're going to talk about is going to be this wide flood application right here. We talked about a couple things that reveal here, right? Line that up, include accessories, include blocking. This light is going to come up. We want a nice wide beam. Let's just look at that beam right here, right? Nice wide beam, 60 to the left, 60 to the right, 60 to the front, 60 to the back. It's going to go real smooth left and right. It's going to fill that cavity and it's going to shoot up on that ceiling, and it's really going to give us a transformative effect here. Let's move over. Great. So we have the requirement of doing color tuning. We have the requirement of doing RGB. It is going to be fantastic when it fits in with all the other capture components that we're doing. And again, you can just imagine how beautiful this is going to be when we could change all the temperatures inside the room. We could follow the day along with it. We could change the RGB scenario in there, and we could really bring this into entertainment. Here's a little example of what a cove looks like, nice and smooth left to right fixture. So let's go to Catcher.com and pull our cut sheet. This is going to be the G2. LT5 here, project name here, right? This is a little picture of what the G2 looks like. Now we have our cut sheet. It's labeled, it's part of our spec package. Let's move on. We are picking a Homeworks residential, of course. QSX is what we're going for. The G2 we can't pick, it is what it is. The 1 foot we can't pick, it is what it is. We do these every 1 feet, connect, connect, connect until we get the length that we want. Pay attention to corners, pay attention to runs. You're better off dropping the ends of a cove off as opposed to installing it all to one side and having more of a cavity to the right, right? If I had my option, 3 inches off the left, 3 inches off the right, and then if it's a corner, you can make up that 3 inches again, right? Try not to go over 6 inches. They become noticeable then, but you should be fine anywhere from gaps of, in those corners from 3, max 6 inches. I've chosen 700 lumens. I just went right at that. I know the sensitivity thing. My other fixtures are at 700 lumens. I'm unifying my top end here. I know the client's going to be happy with the top end light output, and I want to make sure when I dim, everything's smooth. I'm choosing my Clear Connect X, my BT option. I'm doing my 120 by 120, my wide flood. I'm choosing my North America, right? 120, check with the electrician. I'll say it every time. Lead cable comes with it, and it's white. I choose white because, well, it's the only option here, but why is that a good thing? When you put it in the cove, I want that cove to be painted white too. I want everything in that cove to be painted white. I want the gaps to be closed. I want it to be faced inside of there. That way, when the light comes out, it'll just bounce everywhere, right? And get out of that cove. We don't want it going through holes or gaps or being sucked up by any black material, right? So always white there. Let's move on here. There's some stuff here that I just want you to see in the secondary page. Again, it's not critical that you come here for these particular fixtures, but there's stuff here that we just need to check out. Certification, UL, we're good with underwriters. RoHS, we could put this into a landfill if we had to. We never want to get rid of it, but if we had to. The location is a UL damp location and an IP20 rating. So IP is ingress protection. The I is for ingress, the P is for protection. The 2 is for solid, the 0 is for liquid, right? So this has an ingress protection of 20, right? Which means on the 2, it'll stop, about the size of a finger. So can I get my finger in this fixture? No, it has ingress protection, protecting against things that are, my finger or bigger, right? And on the water side, 0. This is not good around water, right? If this was an IP65, we would have an IP6, which would be dust proof, right? Little tiny particles can't get in. And 5 would be, I can spray it down with a hose from any angle. That'd be great for outdoor, right? But little nuggets of information on the back side of this. Look, I got storage temperatures, I got humidity. Just make it best practices to come and to read this stuff. And then you understand exactly what you're getting and you won't put this in the wrong location, okay? And then lastly on this fixture, accessories. Accessories to me, that's where the magic comes from. That separates design. When you consider accessories, hex louvers, lenses, blocks, anything that you can do to kind of heighten the design of this, a lot of it comes from these accessories, right? Here's a simple one though. This is for install. It's the G2 alignment track. You order it separately. The G2s will fit in this track and it'll stop the push and the pull of the wires so you don't serpentine on any of it. It's a really beautiful, simple install. And I just recommend it for any install that you're going to be doing with the G2. Okay. Moving on. Okay. Surfaces. Again, for the purposes of time, we're only going to do the LT7. We're not going to concentrate on both. The LT6 is a graze. We know about that, but we're going to concentrate on this LT7. Now, when we spoke to the homeowner, they did not want to go full dynamic with this, right? And I agree. I don't think we need to go it everywhere, right? But we do want to get some warm dimming here. We want to take it from, a 2700 down to a 2200 just so it goes. Those candlelight dinners we could bring down, those walkthroughs at night, we can have nice and low and warm. So we're going to go to a company called Ion LED here. They're exceptional with the surface mounted linear fixtures, and I'll show you why. So let's go on to that. Oh, just another note here. Just remember, we got it on the back, the front side of the cabinetry. So we want something small, something that has an IP rating on it, and something that, could either attach by clip or attach by magnet. If I was going to the back here, I'd probably do magnet. If I'm coming here, I'm probably going to do clip because I might get a hand up on it. Someone might grab it, and if it's magnet, it might be easy to pull off. So I'll do clip on this end as we go. Okay, so this is the fixture that I chose. I love this thing. It's the size of a nail. I mean, a dime, right? Look at it. There's no visible hardware, right? It's a soft, milky front here. I'm not going to get any diodes. I could go dim to glow. I could go 175 degrees out of this thing. I'm going to hit everything along the way, which is what I want. I'm going an LT6. I like to put an LT6H or call it out LT6 housing. These fixtures come sometimes in 2 or 3 parts, right? You have the housing, you have the light engine, and you have the driver or transformer. You need to call out all of them. It works as one system, right? So I'll start here with the housing. It's the LT6 housing. It's the MT series by Ion LED. This fixture is beautiful. So let's get to it. One of the reasons why I wanted to show you this cut sheet is because it's void of really information. It doesn't have that really groovy pull down by Ketra. We almost got to create our own nomenclature on this, and we're just going to do that first of all by boxing it, by putting it in our spec package. If anybody looks, they know what we want, right? So I'm going frosted, color, custom color, CC. So I'll do a MT101 FCC. Custom pre-cut, I always want them cut in the factory as opposed to on-site unless I have to. There are less problems. So if you can choose it in custom in the factory. Look at this, I already got to do revision because I just chose to go standard instead of magnetic. So I would move this square up to standard, get away from the magnetic since up in the front of that. It has 48-inch leads and an end, FCC CM48LE. I just created a nomenclature on it. The cut sheet didn't give me much help in any of this. I now have a catalog number I can work with in my fixture schedule. Moving on. The light engine that goes inside of the MT. There is a little bit to discuss here, right? I know I want warm dimming. Well, this particular light engine that fits inside of, I've confirmed it over here with my compatibility, my MT101, can come in three ways. It could come in a residential, what they're calling a residential, which is 2,700 to 2,000, which is what I want. Then there's also a commercial grade, which is 3,000 to 2,200. There's also a circadian range, which is 5,500 to 2,200. Not going to get into that. I just want a nice, easy, warm dim. There are two channels in this particular fixture. It's warm, cooler, warm, cooler, warm, cooler. Each of them has their own lumen output we got to join together, and each of them has their own wattage we have to join together. You can see up here, it's 5.61 watts because we're adding two of them together. That's important when we're transforming and we're driving, and we'll see that on the next cut. So that's my LT LE, right? Again, you can go as granular as you want on this. You can really label this out, or you can make it simple. I'm going on the simple side of things for this presentation, so we're calling it the LT6 LE. Okay, let's move on to the next. And then we have our driver, right? This is a warm dim LED driver. It's called the G series or the Gold series. It is a 0 to 10 volt compatible with dimmers. It works on my homework system. I could do a 0 to 10 volt DIN rail module, or I could do the LMJ and talk wirelessly back to the system. It's your option. We just want to make sure that we've chosen the right protocol here that will work. This particular piece is wet listed. It has a 5-year warranty. The wet location you can put it in, it'll probably be indoor, but if there's condensation or something near it, it's okay with this fixture, this transformer. All right, moving on. We made it to pendants. Okay, so pendant again is just that we're connecting it to a J box. We're adding a canopy. We're driving it down with a cable or a stem and into some kind of shade. You can see the fixture that I've chosen over here by Kundalini. Please check them out. It is beautiful fixtures, and they have incredible glass, really diffuse fixtures, have some really sweet forms that I'm just in love with. The homeowner loved it. We've chosen this fixture. Now, remember, I put those LT2s there alongside of it, and those are Ketra, right? So we can do all this dynamic work here. But now, if those were meant to mimic what was coming out of my Kundalini fixture, how am I going to do that? It's not a Ketra fixture, right? I'm going to have to find a way to make this thing dynamic and make it match with my LT2s, right? So let's see what we can do. First, let's specify the Kundalini fixture. Decorative is pretty easy. Mostly it's information it's telling you as opposed to information you want to tell the purchase, right? This is an IP20 again, remember, right? I can't get my finger in it and I can't hit it with water, right? So this is giving me some information, but there are a couple choices you can make with this fixture. It's just calling out white because that's what it is. But over here, I could choose gold or black. I'm choosing black. I love this fixture in black. 120 feed, so we're good there. Check with your electrician. Comes with a canopy over 4.9 inches, goes over a 4-inch junction box. We're good there. It has a transparent cord. We're good there. But here's what I was looking for. My E26 US, right? It means I could put an E26 base in this, which means, ta-da, I could put Ketra in this fixture. And now I've unified them. Now that fixture can do what those L2s are doing, those LT2s are doing, right? I'm calling this LT8L for lamp, right? I hit it with my label, I hit it with my project number, and let's specify this lamp. Homeworks, we know about that, QSX. The A series is all we get to pick. We don't get a pull down, but we do get to choose lumens. So let's look at what we got here. We got 600 lumens in an omnidirectional only, or we have 800 in semi-directional, or we have 800 in semi-directional high efficiency, right? I want the omnidirectional, and I'm about to tell you why. Now, I could go with the 8, maybe get closer to my high end, top end, but I want the omnidirectional, and the 600 lumens is going to work for me. Let's take a look at why. Zoom in here a second. E26 base, this is what I'm looking at. Everybody knows what that is. Most decorative companies will offer you that base option. Choose it. Don't make a mistake and do the GU24 base. It kind of goes in and clicks. It connects to a lot of track work. It's just not popular, and we could talk why we would use it, but we're not going to use it here, and it's not appropriate for this application. But this is what I wanted to show you. Semi-directional, omnidirectional. Envision that glass globe is this round circle right here. My lamp is inside of it. With the omnidirectional, I'm lighting around all of it. This little dip here is where the socket is, but I'm lighting around this whole piece. Gonna make that lens, that glass look beautiful. Over here, I chose 800, but it was a semi-directional, right? What happens? I get this blob of light right at the bottom of this beautiful, expensive fixture that I got. Doesn't look good. It looks like a hot spot, right? So I took a hit on some lumens, but I got my omnidirectional. The fixture is not meant to be bright and in your face anyway, so I'm okay taking it to a low glow and allowing those L2s to really do the work for me here. 120 volt, check with your electrician. I chose white, again, because it's in something and I want the bounce. If it's black, that's cool for like a desk lamp for a semi-directional, right? Doesn't matter, it's in there and it's pushing it out. Omnidirectional, I want to use the fixture itself to bounce the light. Oof, we did it, Zach. We're off to the next questionnaire. We've made a strategy. We've broken down by mountain. We've labeled those mountains by application and type. We've gone in and specified each of these fixtures based on a lighting strategy without applications, using the cut sheet, without lighting designers, and adhering to that lighting strategy. And we are off to the fixture schedule after a quick poll.
So speaking of fixture schedules, what information is most important on a fixture schedule? Do you think it's the input wattage, the location, the description, or that labeling system that we just talked about? Now, looking at this, you might start to think, well, Zach, aren't they all important? So this is a bit of a trick question. I'd probably be having a fit, be arguing with my professor if this was an exam. I'd be like, dude, where's the all of the above? These are all important. Why isn't this multi-select? I'm trying to click on multiple here. I think they're all important, and I could argue why each one of these is important. So Jim, that leads us right into our fixture schedule, which will wrap up the presentation, and just I think it's quickly share why these are all important.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Thank you for hanging with me. I know some of this is tedious. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I'm just trying to be really careful with your time while trying to get some information out. The fixture schedule to me, when we were in theater, we used to call it like a cheat sheet, right? It was a one-page document or a couple-page document that gave me everything that I needed to know, right? We've created a spec package. That's what all those cut sheets are for. It's the deep dive of all those things. So when you go into it, it has all that information. You can share it for pricing. But I want something that when I go to a meeting, I can answer questions fast. I can give it to a team member. I can move it to somebody else. I can attach it. The architect can attach it to their RCPs and add it right on there. And people can have quick reference to what I'm designing here. We call it the fixture schedule. So let's jump in here. What we, the ones that we decided to do here, and again, this is preference, but I like these, and the template should be downloadable from this presentation. So you should have this if you like it. Erase a column, add a column, whatever you like. Type 1, right? We got type, quantity, manufacturer, location, description, source. So we filled it all in, right? I'm going to zoom in on this one. We're going to talk a little bit about it, and then the other ones are going to self-populate, and we're not going to take too much more of your time beyond that. So there, type LT1, there's a quantity of 5. We pulled that right off the drawings. Ketra is the manufacturer. We cut and paste the cat number right from the cut sheet that we built. Location, above island. I'd add kitchen here. So it'd be kitchen above island. Description. This is what I like. If you just take a little bit of time and just fill out this description section and update this description section as you go along, it answers a lot of questions like, hey, do we have any lenses on the LT1? You come right to here. Yeah, we specified a Solite lens. What was the degree on that? I'm concerned it's too tight. It's okay. It's a 60-degree, very wide flood, and it's that square 3-inch aperture you asked for. It's a Ketra downlight. It's doing everything that you asked for. Moving on, right? We've answered those questions. Source. This is good to have here. We want to know it's an LED. We want to know it's full spectrum. It's color changing. It's 90 plus CRI, color render and index. How good the red looks in an apple, for sake. We have an apple under this particular light. It might look not so bright, but if you bring it to daylight, you're going to get a real rendering of that color red, right? So that 90 in a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being the best, 90 is really good. We want to concentrate on 90. Ketra, DMF, these are all standards for them, and they're actually 90 plus. Don't get into the habit of specifying anything that's 80 or less unless you're lighting garbage cans, okay? It's really important to keep that CRI up. The other bit of information I just wanted to share here was an L70 at 50,000 hours. Ketra has amazing warranties. Please go back to your account manager and talk more about those warranties. They're excellent and they're growing. But Ketra, it has an L70 at 50,000 hours. What does that mean? Diodes don't just shut off like a lamp, right? They degrade, right? You'll see on some calls where it's just like this glowing like computer chip, right? They don't just shut off, they'll degrade over time. So that's how we chart this. At 50,000 hours, I lose 30% of my life. L70, right? 100 minus 70, 30. So I've lost 30% of my life at 50,000 hours, right? It's very important. Now, Ketra has all these things inside of it that hold color, you know, lumen depreciations match throughout. We could talk more about that in a separate component, but this is really great because you can understand what kind of life you're getting out of this fixture. And that L70 is usually the question. That is 30%. You can do L90, you can do L80, L70 is what we're talking. 760 lumens here. Under control, Ketra integral wireless color tuning and 0.1 dimming, great. And it's the Homeworks QSX system. 13 watts for the electrician and the engineer to discuss how they're gonna size things. We have our labels here, and then our CYA section here in our notes, all right? Most of us know this, client to verify finish and trim, of course, before we order. I've said this through the whole presentation, verify your voltage, your compatibility with controls, right? But this is the one that we really want to push back on and get the contractor to confirm. Verify the recessed depth and coordinate with the sealant type and thicknesses. If this changes from a 5-inch plenum to a 4-inch plenum and you got a 5-inch fixture, nothing fits, and they're on site. You're going through lead times, you're going through restocking fees, you're going through all that. Just verify it. Make sure before this order releases. Okay, then we go on, boom, right down the line. We just start filling this all out. Last thing I want to share with you is right here, is this little bit called J7V3. This is my sales code. I add this in. This proves that I was here, right? If indeed I'm writing something in the resi line and it goes to the commercial line and distributors go from distributors to dealers or dealers to distributors, and you've worked on this for a long time and it hits catch a quotation someplace else, or the quotations people are going to see this and go like, what does this mean? Or they're going to go, oh, this is one of Jim's specs, let's call him right away. Or they're going to say, oh, this is one of the specs from the dealer side, let's call them right away, let's get the account manager. This gives us a chance to fight price checks or projects moving someplace else without us being involved in that conversation, especially since we did the hard work up front. So I break it up. J7 up here, I do 7.3s, I do JVs, I do VJ7.3s, 3V7Js, right? I'll put that all over the place and I'll try and mess up a couple of these ordering codes to slow people down. I try and keep it the same always. You might want to keep it the same per firm. That way everybody knows when we get the hang of it and we see it more often there. So we populate it. And we're done, everybody. Thank you very much. Zach's going to jump right on for a moment. I'm hoping that we took away some of the mystery of this. I'm hoping that we simplified it. If it was too simple for you, we can have another one that kind of goes deeper in the weeds. If it was too complicated, we could back this off some. Contact me through your account manager. I'm here to help. Thank you very much for your time. All
Thanks
yours,
so
Zach.
much, everybody. Just wanted to say thanks one more time. I plan to have some handouts available for you. It looks like that didn't work. So keep an eye out for a follow-up email. I'm going to include a blank fixture schedule, a completed fixture schedule, a copy of the residential applications brochure, a copy of the PowerPoint, and a recording of this presentation so you can share it with your team members. Let's all use this as a jumping off point and have some follow-up conversations about how we can round out your fixture offering or just support you better on what you're offering today and help you grow your fixture business. So thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.